Hi friends, it's Walter welcoming you to the Something Blue Altenew Certified Educators video hop. Come create with me as I take you to summer on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, complete with the beach, water, and hydrangeas. My trip to Cape Cod begins with a 4-inch by 5.25-inch white cardstock panel and the Caribbean Life layering stencil set. This set makes such a beautiful ocean and beach scene that you won't need any other stencil set for a beach in your collection. I begin with using the Frosted Sea Glass crisp dye ink to blend in the main section of the water. I go a little bit heavier up at the top and down where the horizon line is, and there along the coastline where the water meets the beach. I take my time just blending it, also knowing that it doesn't have to be 100% perfect because there are 2 more stencils that I'll be using to add some additional details. And as you know, as the light reflects off of the ocean and the sky reflects off of the ocean, there are certainly different tones that appear on the water. I then move into the sea glass crisp dye ink to go ahead and blend in some waves rolling along the water. The blending just goes so smoothly, and it really is such an easy stencil to use. I then use the next part of the stencil and the Ocean Waves crisp dye ink to go ahead and add in those crisp, darker tops of the ocean waves. With that complete, I align the stencil to start going in to create my beach scene. The first color I use is Toasted Paprika to go ahead and get the nice dark sand coming up along the waterline. I extend it down a little bit, and then I'll come in with a lighter shade to further blend out the sand. Once done with that color, I move into the Earthy Rose, a much lighter brown tone, to go ahead and complete the shore scene. There will be one last step, one last part to the stencil that we'll have to add in, and that is going to be coming up right now as I align the stencil to that edge between the water and the beach, and I use the Deep Spice crisp dye ink to add in that very, very dark bit of wet sand. And I wanted to extend the rest of my sand to cover up those little white spots that I had not had the chance to cover in because they're a part of the stencil, and I wanted the sand to be up a little higher. So I dip back into my Earthy Rose and just blend that area in. Nice and simple. I then take some low-tack tape, put it against the horizon line where the water meets the sky, and come in to start filling in my sky. I start with my darker shade of blue to go ahead and keep it heavy, especially down along that horizon line. This is the Indigo Skies crisp dye ink that I'm using. Or I'm sorry, Blue Horizon. And I then go ahead and move into my polar bear, a much lighter blue, to finish off the blending of the sky. There's still going to be additional detail added. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And as you know, with clouds in the sky, things rarely are perfect as you look up into the sky. So I start to put my clouds in. I take the stencil that has those layered clouds, and I begin by pouncing some white pigment ink onto just a few of the clouds to add some shapes in. And then I pounce a little bit around the sky just to lighten it up. Then I place my stencils back on, align it, and go ahead with the icy water crisp dye ink to add in just a little bit of detail into the clouds. I have to say again, this stencil set makes it so easy to create a beautiful ocean and beach scene. I take a white gel pen and just add quick little line along where the water meets the sand to give that little indentation of some little rolling waves and the water receding. It's so pretty. I'm now going to go ahead and stamp out my flower base, and that was done using the Pop It Up Blooming Hydrangea outline stamp. I then used the Pop It Up Blooming Hydrangea die and cut out all of my flowers onto using white cardstock, and I made sure to layer them on my stick and stamp mat so that they're in alphabetical order, because that's going to make it so much easier to put them into place. I begin to ink blend the flowers using the icy water crisp dye ink and just blot some on there. Does not have to be perfect because we're going to add additional color. And that next color is the water hyacinth. I work my way around the petals, adding some of that in. And then to tie it all together, I pounce a little bit of white just to lighten up the color a bit, because the petals of a blue hydrangea can really range from a lighter shade to a darker shade, and I wanted to have that amount of depth within my flowers. I then used a cotton swab to add in some green spots to the center of each flower. Next up is coloring my stamped outline of the flower. I start with my darkest color on the stems. I then move into my next darkest color of green and add in some shading and some more detail around each of those little veins in the leaves. And then I grab my lightest shade of green and blend it all together. I then turn to my secret weapon in making my leaves look realistic and adding a little bit of a little something extra to them. And that's the Icy Lemonade shade of yellow. It's a very, very pale yellow, but I feel like it adds so much to each leaf. And as you go over the lighter areas, it blends in with the light shade of green to add up just that little touch of yellow, and it just makes them so pretty. I can now begin to assemble my flower. I simply move in the order of each of the letters on the stamped image and glue each of the flowers down into place. It's really that simple. And you can't do it wrong, because even if you didn't follow that, hydrangeas have different, each hydrangea has a different look to it. So you can't mess it up. It's such an easy flower to put together. But I do follow directions, and I go ahead and lay down each of the flowers onto the corresponding letter on the stamped image. It goes really quickly. It does not take much glue to get these to adhere down, and you can see it quickly taking shape. Hydrangeas are one of my favorite flowers. I just think that they are gorgeous. And they are native to Cape Cod, and they are aplenty down on Cape Cod. And you have both the blue variety, which I chose since this is the Something Blue video hop, but you can also find them in shades of green and shades of purple and white and other colors. I now add a dot of glue into the center of each flower, and then grab one of the die cut centers and adhere them down into place into the center of each flower. Again, this goes really quickly and is very, very easy to do. Once they're in place, I come in with a green marker and color them to add that green center to each of the flowers. And this is why I had went ahead and added that little dot of green with the ink with the cotton swab, just to make sure that it's nicely blended and extends a little bit further out from the flower. I'm doing quite a bit of fussy cutting for this project, and I begin by cutting out the centers, the white centers, between the leaves, the stems, and the flowers, because I don't want to have them included in my scene. You could simply choose to use a light marker and just color them in. You could choose the color of the sand, you could choose the color of the water, the color of the sky, and color in those pieces, but I wanted it to look as if it has more depth, so I cut those out. Once those spots were all cut out, I came in with my precision cutting scissors and cut around the shape, so that my entire flower would be cut out in one piece. I grab a green marker, artist marker, and go around the edges to cover up any of the white. I then grab a white gel pen and just add in some lines on each of the petals, just to add that veined look and to make them look like they have additional depth and the little bits of white that you often see running through the blue hydrangea flowers. I then grab some Winter Lake cardstock, make an A2 card base, add some double-sided adhesive onto the back of my ink blended panel, and secure it into place on the card. I make sure to go around the edges and make sure that all of the double-sided tape is tucked under the panel. I then align where I want my sentiment to go and use my stamping platform to stamp that in Indigo Skies ink, a nice dark blue to go against the sky. I add some glue onto the back of my hydrangea, making sure to get all those little spots, especially around the edge, where it could possibly maybe lift a bit. I'm somebody who believes in over-gluing and making sure that it's going to stay stuck, than having to add glue later on. And it goes pretty quickly. I just work my way around the back of it. And once done, I get ready to position my hydrangea into place, coming off of the side of my beautiful beach scene to make it look like a wild hydrangea growing near a Cape Cod beach. I trim the little bit of the flower petal that was sticking over the edge, and then come in with a white gel pen to add a line on the horizon, as well as some lines on some of those waves, again to give those little white cap appearances. 3 dots of glue are randomly added, and I add some mother of pearl gems to just add that little bit of something extra. And once they're adhered down, we're done with this beautiful card. I hope you enjoyed this journey to Old Cape Cod. If you did, please subscribe to my channel to make sure that you see all of the other fun content that I put forward. Leave a comment on each video for a chance to win.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.